Welcome to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. My name is Jackson Mummy, and each week we'll be bringing you updated information about the bar exam and what you need to do in order to make the next bar exam your last bar exam. Ready to get started? Let's jump to it. Hey everybody, welcome. Today is December 14th. I can hardly believe it. And we have some special surprises today, so I am very excited. June is not with us today. She's actually doing some Christmas work, but we will have her back. But I'm so excited. I don't even know how to explain this. We have with us today two of our awesome group coaches, and we've got some exciting news. Amanda Wright is with us. Hi, Amanda.
Hi, everyone.
This is really cool to have you here. We're glad to see you. You're calling in from what I assume is snowy Massachusetts, right?
Yeah, we got a little bit of snow on the ground here.
Yeah, there you go. Excited to have you here. We're going to have lots to talk about. And we have Briana Belusik here from warmer Texas. Hi, Briana. How are you?
Hey, Jackson, I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Good. This is so exciting. Just before we went live, I realized that Briana and Amanda probably never get to see each other. This is a cool opportunity to have you both here. And this is going to be part of our new structure for these Q&A webinars. I know that many of you get really tired of hearing me talk all the time. So I enlisted Amanda and Briana to join me as co-hosts along with June for these weekly webinars. And sometimes we'll get both of them here, sometimes maybe just one of them, because they're both very busy. And we very much appreciate you taking time out of your lunch hours, probably from your actual legal jobs. Now, for those of you that don't know, Amanda and Briana both are former students who passed their bar exams, the UBE for both of them. And they both have really exciting group coaching calls. If you haven't been on their calls, you should definitely do it. And next, just general announcement is that we're going to take off next week in terms of this Q&A webinar, and we'll be back on January 4th, again at 2 p.m. Eastern, January 4th. And hopefully June will be here, and Amanda and Briana and me. We will really be kicking it at that point. There is something psychologically, I think, that happens to people for the February bar when we turn the corner. Do you agree? Amanda, you're nodding your head.
Yeah, I was a February bar taker, so I completely agree. After the holidays, that's when it seems to be time where it becomes real at that point.
Yeah, it gets very real to people, and then they start freaking out. We would like you to not freak out. We'd like you to just stay calm and relax, but we know that's the big deal. So starting in January, we'll be back in for these webinars pretty much on a weekly basis. Set your schedule for January 4th to join us there, and we will update you on everything that's going on. All right, I have one huge announcement. Besides the fact that Briana and Amanda are here with me on these webinars, part of the reason that we've asked them to join us on the webinar is because we're expanding their role within Celebration Bar Review. I think that many of you may know that Megan has stepped away from bar prep for a while, and we miss her greatly. But Megan did a lot of coaching to help our students. And we want to make sure that we continue to offer an opportunity, at least to have a choice about mentors. And I didn't have to twist their arms too hard, but both Amanda and Briana have agreed to take on for our UBE students. Now, this is significant. Both of them have taken and passed the UBE. And just very briefly, because I don't want to embarrass either of them, Amanda has one of the highest UBE scores I've ever seen. I've been doing this for over 30 years. She is brilliant, talented, very capable as a coach and as a lawyer, and knowing this exam cold. And she's agreed to take on some of the UBE coaching. That's going to be an option for those of you that want it. And Briana took the UBE as well with a chaotic life, I think is a good way to put it. And that's part of the reason that she does the time management coaching. We're going to talk about that as well. But she also did incredibly well on the exam, is a very talented teacher, understands this stuff. I had the pleasure of coaching both of them when they were students. And I can tell you, I've looked at their work. It's good. They know how to write essays, they know how to write performance tests, and they know how to teach it. And so what we've done, if you're a UBE student, you will see in your online course now in the Upgrade Center, an option to choose 10 coaching calls with either Briana or Amanda. And I'll explain why in a minute, why we're giving you a choice, but you'll be able to do 10 calls with them for the same price that you would have done 8 calls with me. So I'm still available to do UBE coaching, but you get the bonus of 2 calls and you get a little different perspective. And you could pay for this monthly, or you can pay in a single discounted course price. So for UBE students, this is like awesome news. And I'm very excited. Now I know that California, Florida, Georgia people are going, oh, what about us? For right now, you get me. That's the answer. But you get more of me because I don't do quite as much UBE now. I think this is a good time maybe just to ask each of you philosophically what your thought is as you jump into this realm. Brianna, what does this feel like for you to be doing some of this?
I think that it's obvious to everybody how passionate I am about the VR program and having gone through it myself and being successful. And I relate to so many of our students on so many different levels, not just the chaotic lifestyle, but also coming from failing the exam to passing the exam and really falling into the CBR program. So for me, this adding this new element into being able to help coach our students and give them this opportunity to be able to work one-on-one with more of the UBE material and the program and how it all works together. It means so much to me. And I can't relay enough that use me, abuse me. I've coaching with Jackson. I know what it takes. I know I will give you your tough love, but I'll also give you a lot of constructive criticism that's going to help you gain those extra points moving into the February exam, July exam, et cetera.
Yeah. And I listen, you will love working with Brianna. I mean, she's awesome. Amanda, for you, you had a crazy busy life going on as you studied for the bar and we worked together. What's this going to be like for you to be on the other side of the monitor now?
Oh, I couldn't agree more in that. I think it's really obvious my passion for CBR, and I'm always singing all yours praises and continually blown away by the students in this program that I've gotten to know through group coaching. So I am equally just as excited to work one on one with students, delve in deeper with the material. And Jackson, what you said earlier in terms of what the course offers, I just think we're one of the few courses where you can get that one-on-one attention, and then we get the opportunity as coaches to work with students one-on-one and see them grow. And I too relate to students on many different levels that are in this course now, that have been in this course. And so I am just thrilled to be offered the opportunity and help people get to the other side. I think one of the things I said in my coaching calls that I attended leading up was, I hope to be on the other side of this as a lawyer in Massachusetts to address some of the inequities that exist in the bar. And now I feel like I get an opportunity to do that. So I'm thrilled to be living my why also.
Yeah, and that I'm glad you raised that point because I know that Brianna has felt the same way, and that's really essential and fundamental to our belief system here in this company that we're trying to bring underrepresented voices to the bar. And the success stories that you two have had, Brianna, you just got named partner in your firm, and Amanda's doing unbelievable stuff, teaching and working and being licensed now or about to be licensed in 3 states. When you see the quality of our students when they become members of the bar, you begin to realize how important it is to give people this chance. And so I'm thrilled that we get to do this now and really make it even more affordable for people and then give them some availability and some time availability. So, one of the reasons I asked both Amanda and Brianna to take on this role is that we felt like as we've grown, obviously nationally, it gets more challenging from a timing perspective. And Amanda's on the East Coast, and you may very well, if you're thinking about enrolling, Amanda might be a great choice for you if you're on the East Coast. Brianna's in the Midwest. Texas is in the Midwest. I don't even know what Texas is. It's like its own special world, but it's in the central time zone. And so that may be easier for some people there. And I'm now headquartered in Denver. And so I'm in the mountain and covering the Pacific time zone. So I think we've got the country reasonably well covered here. The way that this works is when you go to order, and you'll see that link in your course, you will have the option to choose to work with Amanda or Brianna and or me, and then you can pick up from there. Again, the bonus is you get 2 extra calls, half-hour calls, if you're working with Amanda or Brianna. Now, I will also be checking in on their calls. We record them. I'll be working with them. So there's not going to be any drop off at all. I can assure you, these are 2 extremely talented coaches and teachers, and I am just thrilled to have you guys here. So thank you. And I think people get a sense of that as we go through and do these podcasts as well. And again, if you've been on the group coaching calls, it may be that you've been doing Amanda's call and you live in California. You want to work with Amanda, that's great. There's no restriction there at all. So we've got that going on. So that's one big piece of this. We have another thing that we are doing, You may remember that we've got an offering called the Personal Writing Workshop. This is a couple of calls to talk about the mechanics and the writing. I'm continuing to offer that myself, but I twisted Briana's arm to also pick up the Personal Writing Workshop. And you'll see that option as well. And that is for anyone in any of our courses. That's UB, California, Florida, Georgia. Briana, you want to talk a little bit about the writing workshop and what you're thinking about with that?
Yeah, if you've done any writing workshops with Megan before, I'm basically going to do the exact same thing. So the personal writing workshops are going to be call me up. We've got 1 30-minute session. I'll assign you an essay. We'll do a follow up where we'll completely dissect that essay. It is not going to be content. I'm not looking for whether or not you are getting the law right. I'm going to be assisting you in working on that structure, the FLA format, the FLA structure, making sure we're getting in our facts and our law and our analysis. And do we have those four sentences in that second paragraph? And making sure that we hone in on the structure of your writing. So when you go into the bar exam, it becomes second nature. And you're just going through the motions when you get there. So I'm really excited to be offering that. It's one of the very few things that I think we can control in our bar exam environment. And it's so much simpler than IRAC stuff. I'm really excited to be offering it. I think that the most bang for your buck with just a quick 1 hour session with me, being able to dissect that and work one-on-one with you guys is going to be invaluable.
Yeah. We're excited about that. And if we can wrestle the time out of Amanda's schedule, we're going to ask her to do that too. But it's like, where do you find the time to do this? So we're working on it. But I'm really excited that this is an offering that we've got for you as well. And I think it'll be very helpful for people. Lots going on, a lot of expansion here. This is really a function of the fact that Celebration has grown dramatically in the number of students and the reach that we've got. And so I'm really thrilled to be able to pass this on to another generation of talented teachers and cohorts. Great. Thank you so much. We're excited about that. The last thing administratively that I'll say just generally is June wanted me to remind everybody that between the week of Christmas and New Year's, we do our coaching mentoring to talk about your writing work, but we will not be doing group coaching calls that 1 week. So just everybody know that it's when we turn the corner, when it becomes January, then all the stops come out and we go full blast for everybody. So take advantage of this time between now and January 1st. I know it's crazy with the holidays and everything else, but truly for all of us, we're much quieter right now than we're going to be January 2nd. So this is a good opportunity to jump in there. All right. With all of that, it's a lot. We've gotten some questions from students about studying, and I thought I'd go through some of those and then ask our guest hosts here to jump in as well. Some of these are fairly administrative, but some I think pretty deep. So let me jump into some of the administrative work first. The first administrative question we get a lot at this point is, what's the process if I'm sending work into conference with Jackson or with Amanda or Briana? And I want to just walk you through that. Essentially, what we need you to do is to send the work to us first. Sometimes people like to schedule an appointment and then they send the work. That doesn't happen. That's not good. We need the work in front of us. We need to actually be able to read it and think about what we're going to talk about. And we also know that often you can schedule an appointment and then forget to send the work, or you forget you scheduled the appointment because you didn't do the work. And that's a long period of time. And we really don't want to do that. We need to make sure that these spots are being utilized effectively. So the process is you write the assigned piece of work, depending on the course that you're in, essay or performance test. You email that in to your mentor. So you'd email it to me or to Amanda or Briana, and they will have their email addresses available for you. Then schedule your conference. Now, I need to point out that each of us have our own separate calendars and our own separate links. So if you want to talk to Amanda, you can't put in my Calendly link. It won't work. So that's part of it. And you will get the link. You will see that link in your course, and you'll get an email from us with the link for your coach. If you ever get stuck or can't figure it out, just send an email to June and she will get you to the right person. One other point. Sometimes as we get around the January 1 mark, people start to freak out. And so they want to schedule 4 or 5 conferences, and they just try to schedule them out over a long period of time before they've done the work and just lined up, here's a set of appointment dates. That doesn't work either, and we'll cancel those subsequent calls. And the reason for that is not to be punitive. The reason is we want to have you write, get the feedback, and then take the feedback and go to the next call and apply it there. Amanda, you have any thoughts about that? I know that you've been on the other side, not failing to do the process, but what it's like to write and get the feedback.
No, I completely agree with that. And the process is really there for your benefit. For me, I saw the benefit of getting feedback, doing a few more practices with that feedback, right? Really letting that feedback soak in that you gave me on my writing, and then take maybe the worst one, or what I perceive to be the worst or the weakest one of my essays, and give it to you for the next one. I think it also took the pressure off too. I didn't have these pre-scheduled calls with you. I could do them when I felt like I was ready and where I'd had enough practice actually integrating what I learned in our sessions together. So that's my support for that process.
Yeah, and the process really will work. There's plenty of time to get to me and to Amanda and Brianna. So you don't need to panic about it. We make sure we'll get it. Panic is an issue though, isn't it, Brianna? People start going and start trying to hide up, right?
It absolutely is. And what I see a lot with our students, and not just our students, I found myself becoming a victim to it as well. As we get closer to the exam, that anxiety comes in and you start freaking out and you start straying away from the syllabus and you start losing your game plan and you start saying, okay, I need to do MBE questions. I need to do essay questions. I need to do this. And I promise you, if you just stick to the schedule and you have a game plan every single week, you're going to keep that anxiety at bay. You're going to keep everything else, down so you can focus on your studies. Yes, we're coming into freak out zone.
While we're talking, got another question, and it specifically somebody said, "How do I sign up for the sessions with Brianna to plan my schedule?" You offer a product called the Time Management Workshop, which is this 30-minute, really amazing opportunity to put together a specific schedule. You want to talk a little bit about that and how people set up that particular option with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's through the online portal and the online module, you should be able to find a link to be able to purchase this time management coaching call with me. And after you're able to that, again, it's through the Calendly link. I have a pretty wide availability on the weekends and into some evenings, and then usually during my lunch hour. I'm pretty flexible with scheduling that call. But talking about that anxiety, one of the number one reasons that anxiety creeps up is because we don't have that game plan, because we don't have a schedule. So, one of the things we'll do during that call is dissect what are your traditional distractions? What determines how things make it onto your schedule? Is your bar exam your number one priority? If it's not your number one priority, how do we make it your number one priority? How do we clean your calendar up to carve out time for your study hours? And once we've figured a lot of that stuff out and we've figured out where your distractions are, we can target where you're going to be the most focused on your studies. Usually for me, it was first thing in the morning because life didn't have an opportunity to happen. Life didn't have an opportunity to get in the way. The earlier, the better. I knew I was going to get my studies in. My little kids weren't going to come running in at 5 o'clock in the morning. They were sound asleep in bed. And we'll talk about that. What are your other responsibilities? What are your other priorities that have to come into play with your study schedule? And one of the biggest benefits of it is if you follow the schedule, and it's very doable. I have yet to have somebody who's come back and say, I just couldn't do it. And if they did, we've revamped it and we've made it work. But if you do it, you know exactly where you're at every single week and where you need to be in order to be able to get through the syllabus, to be able to get through all of the material to prep yourself for success on the bar exam. And having that schedule also keeps those anxieties at bay. I do personally send out an Excel worksheet that's got it's broken down line by line, hour by hour, where you need to be week by week. I send a template, a Word template where your study hours are and work you through it as well during that 30-minute call of basically what are your studies? What is your to do day by day, Sunday through Monday? Sunday through Saturday or Monday through Sunday, whatever it may be, wherever you're starting. And you can learn how to schedule out every single day. So you're not going into the next day saying, oh, what am I doing tomorrow? So I find I've gotten a lot of great feedback on it. Jackson, I think you've gotten a lot of great feedback as well. I think it's key and crucial to being able to know you're going to get through that study guide.
I know our students are busy and they need to be able to schedule and structure. It's a terrific opportunity and a terrific offering. So thanks for doing that. So there you go. Another administrative question, I think. Somebody said, are there tables of contents for the outlines? I don't see them. The answer to this is really pretty simple. In the digital books in your online portal, we have tables of contents. When you're looking at the PDFs for a specific subject, we don't put in the table of contents because you got the PDF just for that subject. So if you want to get it, jump into the digital book and use it that way. And I really like using the digital books. I don't know, Brianna, Amanda, do you guys have a preference there about the digital books?
I like using the digital books because I like the control find feature or command find if you're on a Mac. That really helps me. I can just like, go to where I want. I'm like thinking, oh, I don't know this term, this subject. I just go into the outline and find it there. So I do like the digital books and having everything all in one spot.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. I like that as well. Brianna, are you old school? You like the books, don't you?
I do. Jackson, I photo read. I'm a hands on person. I still don't even use a Kindle or anything like that. I just love my hands on books. However, I did utilize the digital book for the exact same reason that Amanda was talking about, that control F, let's say. And they're extremely useful for doing an MBE question. And you do an MBE question, you get it wrong. And let's say you don't quite understand the explanation. You can go into that digital book, use that control find feature, and you know what topic's being tested. And you can actually dive a little deeper into those digital books. So I did utilize them, believe it or not.
Yeah, it's fun. So you've got all of that there for you, and I think that's useful. All right, well, let's turn our attention to some study strategy questions, and I'm excited to get the take of both of you on some of these questions because I think they really get to the heart of where people are right now and what's going on. We had a student write to us this week and said, I had every intention of starting my bar prep early this time, but of course life happened and I started later. Can I still do 20 hours a week and be successful, or do I need to increase my hours? Let me just start by saying that 20 hours this week is way better than 20 hours next week. You got to get started. That's really the key, is just getting started. And if you can give me 10 hours this week, that's better than zero, right? The way to really think about this is the work you do in December, I think, is bonus work. I think that just gives you really extra time. When we hit January 1, then I think you really start to have to lock in at least 20 hours and maybe more, depending on where you are in the process. But anything you do now just gives you this advantage so that you don't have to do quite so much at the end. Our course is built on the idea that you don't cram at the end. You don't put in 60, 70 hours the week before the bar exam, because then you're a zombie when you go in to take the test. And so if you're working steadily and progressively, it's much easier to get through the material and to be ready for the test. The question of whether or not 20 hours a week right now and be successful, yeah, absolutely. I think you could do it at this level, but it is really getting started. Um, Either of you want to jump in on that? I know that's a big question that we get, and you probably get a lot in your group coaching calls too.
Yeah. Brianna, do you want to go first? You want me to go?
You go ahead and go first.
Yeah, so I was trying to find the exact date I started. I bet you I could because I just have a feeling, and I was a February bar taker when I was a student in Celebration Bar. And because I have a feeling it is, yep, my receipt for Celebration Bar Review is 12/4/2021. And I was working more than full time. I got COVID in January leading up to the exam, and I was studying 20 hours a week. I, like you, Brianna, like to do a bit in the morning before life gets in the way, but I couldn't do it all before work started at 9 a.m. So I did 2 hours in the afternoon and tried to do a longer session on the weekend. So I was at 20 hours, and I would completely echo what Jackson said. The work putting in December was bonus. So if you're right around here, you're just about where I was. So I guess you're in good company, but also that may make you feel better that someone else was putting in about that amount. And I did have to take some time off in January because I did get COVID. So you're even ahead of me if you don't get sick. But life, even if something happens, life happens and you'll get through it. Yeah, same. Hopefully that's helpful to some of you.
So
Absolutely.
I was in a little bit of a different boat. I gave myself 9 months to study for the February exam, mostly because I did have young children. So the earlier you get started, the better it is. And I still had a life. I was still able to go home and have dinner with my kids and get my kids ready and go to school in the morning. So I took a day off and I only studied 2 hours in the morning. So I was only studying about 10 hours a week. But for me, having that 9 month, that 9 month period it was invaluable for me. So one of my favorite proverbs, though, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The next best time is today, right now. I can't agree more with what everyone is stressing with. The most important part is to just get going and get started. I will say, I'm going to give you a little different perspective than the 20 hours a week. If you were to jump on my time management coaching call right now, I'm going to give you probably a 35 to 40 hour work week. But the reason I do that, and this might give you a little peace of mind, the reason I do that is because life does happen. Life is going to get in the way. You are going to have a study day that falls through the cracks. You may not be feeling great one day. Maybe you have a loved one that you lose and life happens. So I encourage my students to put in a little bit extra every week, especially now before that anxiety kicks in. And it also allows you almost the entire month of February to be in that review stage. So, can it be done with starting right now, 20 hours? Absolutely. Would I encourage you to do more? Yes.
Yeah, if you can do more than 20 hours a week, by all means do it. There's no doubt about it. But I think people get into that mindset where they think, oh my God, if I can't hit 20, I'll just give up. And we don't want you to do that. Get started and absolutely plant your tree now. Great. And I love the fact that we have these different perspectives and different experiences. And hopefully you're finding a place as a student where you're saying, okay, I can relate to that and I can work with that. Just get underway, get going. And if you really need the kick in the butt to get the schedule done, sign up for the time management with Briana. I promise you, it will jumpstart what you're doing. Great. Thank you both. That's great responses. In the same vein, we got a comment from a student who said, I think I need help to create a schedule and focus on using the CBR course. So obviously we've talked a little bit about that. The student said, I feel overwhelmed because I wasn't able to get to my substantive materials today, and I'm barely touching one of the first subjects. Should I readjust my schedule? I want to keep following the course lessons and trust the process, but I feel behind. We see this all the time where there's overwhelm. And I want to talk a little bit about overwhelm because as you get into the course early on, there's just a lot of stuff coming at you. A lot of you are learning to photo read. You're learning to mind map. You're learning a different way of writing with FLA. The study process is just completely different because this course is built on a completely different model and paradigm than most other courses. And it can be overwhelming at first. So I guess my question really both to Briana and Amanda is, how do you respond when students come back with this sense of overwhelm? What's the game plan there? Amanda, let me jump that up to you first and get your
Yeah, sure.
thoughts.
One of the things I noticed in the question that you read, Jackson, was that they're feeling behind. And I do see a lot of students coming with this sense of overwhelm because they're not far enough along. They think they're falling behind. One of the benefits of working with Brianna for time management, and you heard her say you got to build in that time because life happens. But one of the other things that I like, Jackson, I think you said it before on calls, is sometimes it's not always beneficial to say, I need to be finished with evidence by the end of the week or con law by this time, but just to put in the hours, not think I'm behind, I'm ahead. And I think you see from Brianna and I's different perspectives too, that there is not one formula to success for studying for the bar exam. For this, so this feeling of I'm feeling behind leading to the feeling of overwhelm is really manufactured in our mind, right? We should be where everyone else is. We should be where the people beside us are. But where did that get you last time if you're a repeat taker? Or where has that done you wrong before? Sometimes the best place to be is simply where you are and take the next best step and do the next right thing, right? So I really latch onto that overwhelm coming from feeling like I should be somewhere else and I'm not there yet. You will be there when February gets here, when exam day gets here, you will be there and we will get you there. And if you trust the process and the course and everything that we're telling you, you'll get there.
Yeah, it's great. Briana, you got any thoughts?
Yeah. One of the things I just quickly jotted down, what you touched on, Amanda, was that the best way to not understand that overwhelm is accepting where you're at. If you can accept exactly where you're at, forget about the past, Just understand where you are right now and just be okay with it, be at peace with it. The overwhelm with your studies can start to dissolve away. So the minute you can accept exactly where you're at and know that there is still a way to get to the finish line, you're going to be just fine. A lot of times when people are feeling that overwhelm and that anxiety with me, I try to remind them that it is that just do it. Guys, Nike got it right. Just do it. And that done is better than perfect. Sometimes just getting started is all you need to be able to push you. Do 20 minutes a day, do 40 minutes a day, then bump it to an hour, bump it to an hour and a half. It's going to give you that momentum and it's going to build that confidence to be able to put in those longer stretches of hours.
Yeah, I think so. Thanks. The other part of this student's comment, which I hadn't gotten to yet, was that they then said that it's a stressor they had access to, and then they list, I don't know, 6 or 7 different resources for the bar exam beyond CBR. Our take has always been that our course is fully comprehensive. There's really nothing else you need to add to it. We have every license question from the national conference. We have all of the essays in every jurisdiction. We have all of the performance tests. We have the Florida multiple choice if you're in Florida. And we've been doing this for over 30 years and our predecessor company for 20 before that. So there's very little that's lacking. I don't think there really is anything lacking in this course. And so the need to go out and get your critical pass flashcards or your adaptive questions, or it might be reels, I think just adds to that overwhelm. And I think then what happens is that you get confused because you've got too much input coming from too many different directions. And frankly, again, most bar reviews come from the idea of memorize and recite and cram, and that's not what we're doing. So there's this clash of culture, and that leads to, I think, additional overwhelm. So my recommendation there is take all the other materials, thank them very much. I know you spent money for them, but really put them aside. The goal here is to pass the bar. And if you're trying to get at that goal, too much material, I think, becomes a bad thing. Either of you want to comment on that?
Jackson probably doesn't know this, but you guys, I can't encourage you to toss everything else in the trash right now. I actually I went through CBR twice. I went through the first time, and guess what? The first time I did exactly what this student is talking about. I went and I looked, I was like, no, I need more MBE questions. So I spent hours researching other programs to go and find other stuff to do. What's the fastest way to do it? What's the best program? And I'd already invested in CBR. If I had and guess what? I did not pass that time because I spent so much time going in circles trying to find answers to solution that was already in front of me. The time that I passed very well, I invested in the program. I believed in the process. I trusted the process. I only used the CBR reels, and it is above and beyond what you are going to need to be able to pass. Use what's in front of you, turn off the chaos, turn off the noise. I don't care what the other bar takers are telling you to go do. If you invested in this program, stick with it.
Yep, 100%. I think that's really awesome example, like that you're sharing too of your own personal experience. So it's wonderful that people probably are relating to that right now. And I would say the same, toss everything else aside. It's really just a distraction and just noise, chasing shiny objects. And probably, I think if you look within yourself, you're probably distracting yourself from doing the work. I need this. I need to get this extra thing, look this extra place. There is no secret handshake. There is no secret code. Like, it's not like you do this one thing, you're going to pass. And I got through all of CBR, of course, and I still don't think I know all the content, right? There's too much content for any one person to know, except maybe Jackson. So it's more than you need to pass the exam because you just don't need to know all of it to pass. Like, you just need to know enough to pass. So the other stuff is really extraneous.
Yeah. And by the way, folks, that's coming from somebody who knocked the score so far out of the ballpark that it's just staggering. I think both of those examples are really helpful. And I know we hear this all the time that students are just trying to grab everything they can. And we understand why they do it. And it's not that we're trying to keep it all for ourselves. Clearly, it's just that our goal is for you to pass. And the more stuff you've got, it's counterintuitive, but the more you've got, the less likely you are to succeed. And I think there's a lot of truth that sometimes that's just a friendly distraction from doing the work you really have to do. And so then you go down the rabbit hole with that stuff. Stay the course, do what we're asking you to do. There's plenty here and you should be fine. Okay, I saved this question for near the end because I really thought this was a terrific question. And I thought, geez, I got Amanda and Briana here. This is going to be great to get their take on this. This student wrote to me and said, I am having so much anxiety when I practice performance exams. Now, performance exams are part of the Georgia, California, and UBE. If you're a Florida bar taker, you could just translate this to doing Florida multiple choice. But there is this anxiety question. And the student said, is there anything I can do in addition to just grinding through it? I feel like I have less anxiety around subject essays because I feel like I have some understanding of the material, but my brain goes into overload every time I do a practice performance test. It freezes and makes me think it's very difficult. And I come away from it feeling very discouraged. First of all, I just want to say that when I get this kind of an email, I am very appreciative that a student is being that candid and open and honest with me because I don't need to hear all the good stuff and the yay stuff. I mean, it's nice, but these are the ones that I think really in some ways matter the most. And I understand this sense of frustration and despair that can come over you for any part of the test. For some people, it is essays, and for some, it's MBEs. For this particular student, it's performance tests. And so I want to talk on two different levels. I certainly want to talk about what to do with performance tests, but I also want to talk about whenever this feeling of discouragement hits you and despair hits you for doing part of the exam. One of the things that is weird about this test is that to the bar taker, it feels like the test is right now, like it's just going to happen tomorrow. And the problem is that your skills aren't developed yet to take the test tomorrow. For most of you, if you had to take the bar exam tomorrow, you probably wouldn't pass. That's just the reality. And yet it feels like you should be able to. And so we have these high expectations of ourselves. We have this high belief that we should be competent right away at doing these things, even when they are brand new to us. It's been my experience that most law students don't get much experience in what would be a performance test kind of setting. And so as a result, it's really new to them and they haven't had to do it. Now, if you've been in practice for a few years, you should be more comfortable, but I've had plenty of lawyers in practice tell me the performance exams terrified them because of the timing. But I think the starting point for this is that when you're feeling that discouragement, you've really got to take a step back and look at this as a process. You're learning, and the only way to learn is to stumble a little bit and to work through it and not give up on it. If you give up on any part of the exam today, that's disastrous. You've got plenty of time to improve and get better. If you're a performance test anxiety, if that's your problem, one of the things that we're going to recommend is that you do a performance test every week between now and the exam. Why? I want to desensitize you to it. I want to get you away from being afraid of that particular part of the exam. If you're having trouble with multiple choice, I'd say the same thing. It's doing practice multiple choice, or for essays, again, the same thing. But you don't want to run away from it. You want to lean into it. And I think that this student that was writing to me and I'm coaching, I think that they are beginning to discover that leaning into it is still better than running away from it, even when it feels bad and discouraged. And you're just like, what do I do with this? That's my general sense of how to deal with this part of the question. I'll circle back around here at the end, but I want to get Briana, we'll start with you, maybe your take on performance tests specifically, because you had to do them. You had to write them. You had to get through them. And I'm sure you can relate in some ways to what this student was feeling.
Yeah, Jackson, I feel like I probably could have wrote this email to you myself. I struggled a lot with the MPTs personally as well. Couldn't find an organizational strategy. I remember submitting a couple of MPTs to Jackson, and his comment to me was like, know that you know what you're talking about, but you're just all over the place. I had to do extra MPTs, and I know that they're overwhelming or can be overwhelming because they do take an hour and a half out of your time. And unfortunately, yes, part of getting comfortable with it is grinding in and just doing the work. One of the things that was enormously beneficial for me, and this is just an outside pointer that you could try, I went through and I picked some of the persuasive, what's the one we get on all of them? The
Well,
persuasive.
the objective legal, is that what you're talking about?
Yes. So the objective legal, I tried to go in and pick a lot of those so I could focus on one type of MPT just to find my groove. So I'd go in and I picked a couple of those and I literally I read it. I read the library, I read the entire question, the entire content, and then I read the model answer. And I did that for at least 3 of them and jotted down notes and trying to understand my structure, trying to understand what would be considered a model answer for that. It helped me kind of restructure the MPTs in my brain a little bit. Then I found that there was a consistent pattern in every single one of those MPTs. And I kid you not, you guys, like I went in and I wrote one. I wrote one. It was significantly better than the one that I turned to Jackson. I wrote another one. It was significantly better than the one prior. And then finally, that third one I did, I had honed in on my skills enough that felt like I was a brand new writer. It was so I encourage you, if it feels right to you, go in and read some of those MPTs, read the model answers, get comfortable with it before you dive into your next MPT, if that feels right for you.
Yeah, that's great advice. Amanda, how did you deal with NPTs?
Equally, I feel like I probably could have written this at some point in my study as well. I think I don't like the long length of them. Brianna said I got to sit down here for an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes and get myself psyched up to take this. And you do have to, again, just do it. One of the pieces of advice I think that helped me with MPT, and this might be a bit specific to UBE, but I think you could take some nuggets away from it, is I remember you telling me, Jackson, you don't have to be that far ahead of the pack in the MPT. So instead of trying to like put all this effort into the MPT, like just glide through it, do the best you can with it. It made it a little more light for me. And people know I'm a runner, but if you play sports or if you need to do anything where you need to budget your energy, just reminding that, listen, I can't put 120 into this MPT anyway on the exam because I got to pace myself a bit. For me, that gave me, it's not that I didn't try my hardest on the MPT, but it gave it a little bit of lightness about it because it was the first exercise you do in the exam. And I thought of it as a warm up, but I did hate practicing them. And I would also agree with Brianna that I would probably be so embarrassed to go back and look at my first MPT that I wrote. I don't even want to do it because I know that it was so far off the mark. And I had been licensed already for 8 years before I was in Celebration. So I would probably venture to say, even though Jackson said some lawyers would be better at it, that most lawyers probably wouldn't score too high for the MPT. So I'm definitely, if you're feeling like, again, this inadequacy about where you are, just be comfortable with where you are now, because that is not where you're going to be in 6 to 8 weeks. So I resonate with it a lot, maybe bringing some lightness to it if it is the first part of the exam. This is my warm up. This is my startup. I don't have to grind through it. I can just glide through it.
Yeah, that's great advice from both of you. Thank you. And yes, I remember your performance tests for both of you. They were, let me just say, I know you're better coaches now for having had the experience, but the truth is, hardly anybody does well on the performance test as they start out. It's very rare that I get one and go, wow, this is really spectacular. It is a learning process, and doing them is the way you learn. I like the idea of finding the particular genre, objective tone to a legal audience, for example, and just staying in that genre until you feel comfortable with the organization and the structure. I'd also say that if you go back and listen to my lectures on the performance tests and the way to break them down, that structure really works well. It just takes a little getting used to because it's different in that I'm having you create the framework and then drop the facts in and start to write. And ultimately, if you're having problems with performance tests, I strongly encourage you to get into the coaching aspects of the course, whether it's with me or Amanda or Brianna. There's nothing that beats getting the feedback on your work and getting some one-on-one assistance. It's much better than trying to tough this out on your own if you're struggling with it. Hope that's helpful. I know that this particular student who is in the coaching, I think that's one of the things that's helping them. Great question. And I imagine it's a question that a lot of people are going through. Appreciate that. We've just got a couple minutes left. We've got one last question that I wanted to address very quickly. Somebody was asking about mind mapping for MBE questions. This is a really important tool, I think. As you answer an MBE question, what you want to do is go to the answer explanation, get the principle of law that controls that answer, and then go to your mind map for that subject and make sure that principle shows up somewhere in your mind map. That's my quick answer to how to do that. Brianna, do you have anything to add to that about mind mapping?
Yeah, just a quick brief note on it. The one thing I do see a lot of students trying to do with their mind maps is make it a story. And they use too many words and they try to make it too elaborative. Like Jackson said, you've got to hone in on the exact topic that's being tested and make it as succinct as possible and narrow that down. So you've got your light bulb word, your buzzword, so to speak. That's what's going to go onto that mind map.
Good. That's good advice. Amanda, anything else about mind mapping?
No, same. Yeah, keep it short. I use some pictures, draw some pictures if that helps you.
Yeah. But mind map, right?
Yes,
Always,
but do it.
but do it. Well, it's been great. Thank you. This is exciting. I'm looking forward to doing this on a regular basis. It's great to get the input. These two experts have really learned how to do this. If you haven't been on their group coaching calls, get on those calls. You'll get all kinds of nuggets like these. And then really encourage you, if you're a UBE student, to sign up for coaching with Amanda or Briana. I think you'll love that. And of course, the personal writing workshop that we've got available now, and the time management workshops. So there's a lot of things there for you to check out. I hope everybody has a wonderful holiday season. I know that it can be stressful to study with the holidays. As I often say, please do not bring your bar review materials to the Christmas dinner table. You will make everyone very unhappy with you and you won't get any studying done. So, you can find a way to segment and get all that done. We'll see you on the other side on January 4th. Amanda, thank you very much for being here. Hope this was fun for you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you everyone for having me, and Jackson and Brianna, thank you.
Yeah. And Brianna, great to see you as always.
Oh, you as well too, Jackson. Couldn't be more thrilled to be a part of the team. It's just such a pleasure working with you and Amanda and all of our students.
Great. Listen, everybody, have a great week. Have a great holiday. We'll be back in January and whoop, here we go. All right, everybody, take care. Have a great day. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.